Well, Broads, this episode is brought to you by Relief Band. Broads, if you suffer from nausea for any reason, whether it's from a hangover, anxiety, car sickness, pregnancy, or if you're like me, absolutely everything, you need to check out Relief Band.
Yeah, and if you're like me and you're terrified of vomiting, this is also a great one for you.
There you go.
Relief Band is the #1 FDA-cleared anti-nausea wristband that's actually clinically proven to relieve and prevent nausea and vomiting.
Relief Band stimulates a specific nerve in the wrist that travels to the part of your brain that controls nausea. Honestly, I've tried a lot of cures for nausea in the past, and this is the only thing that has worked for me. It's incredible.
I actually just bought an extra one for my neighbor's daughter who gets extreme car sickness, and so far so good. So
what a neighbor. What a neighbor.
I know. As the world's opening back up, don't let the fear of nausea keep you on the sidelines, because right now Relief Band has an exclusive offer just for Chatty Broads listeners. If you go to reliefband.com and use promo code Chatty, you'll receive 20% off plus free shipping and a no questions asked 30-day money back guarantee. So you've got nothing to lose. Head to reliefband.com, RELIEFBAND.com, and use our promo code Chatty for 20% off plus free shipping.
And welcome to another episode of Chatty Broads with Becca and Jess.
Well, hello, Broads.
Good evening, Broads.
Good evening,
Good
Broads.
morning.
I don't know if you're watching on YouTube, but it's not our typical green background.
Honestly, this is making me want to revamp the studio.
Yeah.
There's a very large, for those listeners right now, there's a very large painting of tigers behind us. Lots of cats actually in this room. And
So if we're going to revamp the studio, we're going to need to bring Lisa Vanderpump in because...
Happy to oblige.
Welcome on the podcast.
Thank you.
We just did your podcast, so we've been
chatting already.
We've been chatting.
I squeezed the juice out of you.
Yes, 100%.
Listen, Broads, Lisa is trying to talk Becca out of an open relationship. She is coming down
with her annoying wisdom and more experience, and she knows
your
best. But, you know, we covered that. But now we're going to cover you and your life.
Go ahead. You can ask me whatever you want.
Really, whatever?
Yeah.
Oh my
I like the fact that you said we met before. Because when you said that to me on my podcast and somebody says, oh, we've met before, shall I tell you? You never know how horribly wrong that could go. You know?
Just like,
especially if you don't remember that person.
Exactly.
Just the nerves start
why, first of all, why don't I remember? Was I intoxicated?
Exactly.
What have you?
Well, Broads, you can listen to Lisa's episode and hear how I met, but I've talked on the podcast about it before, and I've actually worked with numerous housewives. And I will say,
please don't put me in that category. I left 3 years ago.
Well, can I put you in the category of you're beyond the nicest?
But you should.
Okay, I'll take that.
You should tell her, like, you might as well spill like who you have interacted with.
I don't know if I want to get Lisa in trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
Not her in trouble.
No, I know.
Okay.
There's a few individuals that, you know.
No, I don't.
You might have had some interactions with that I've had negative experiences with. So, you know, I'd go to bat for you, Lisa.
Oh, okay. Well, just because I gave you $10.
Exactly.
Okay,
That's
so
all that it took.
For people who don't know, Lisa Vanderpump, why don't you give yourself an introduction instead of us saying that you were on Real Housewives?
Because
we'll let you speak for yourself.
Because she does everything.
Well, I understand that that's how people know me because I was on that show for 9.5 years until, I just said, that's it.
Yeah.
I called it a day. In fact, in that very place where you were standing and I was making you tea. But it was a long time, and there was some amazing experiences, and it has given me platforms to kind of really expand on things I've been passionate about and creating my own foundation, which is very difficult to do. It has to be approved by the government and to keep that through the pandemic as well. That's been a struggle. So to have my own 501c3, I've been able to speak at Congress, co-write resolutions, been voted Woman of the Year by State Assembly, and actually just was a recipient of the Mary Pickford Award, which was, I've really had incredible kind of experiences through Housewives, through coming to the forefront in reality television. After the second year, or just in the midst of the second season, I was blessed with my own spin-off. And I think a lot of people, obviously, they want their own spin-off. And it was with the same network and the same production company. And as an executive producer of that, that might have provoked some kind of feelings through other women.
Sure.
I don't know. They weren't necessarily negative about it, but just by virtue of the fact that they never actually ever discussed Vanderpump Rules or supported it, led me to believe that if there's a reason, there has to be a reason why.
Really? They didn't ever talk about it?
Not really, or was never. It was never supported. Like, for instance, if somebody says to me, "Oh, please, will you tweet?" It wasn't competing with Housewives. It's a totally different show. And when Bravo asked me if I wanted to do a spin-off and have a pilot, I actually really kind of thought, what could I do, that wouldn't basically compete with Housewives. So it had to be more about the Hollywood kind of vibe. And, I didn't even want to do it about Villa Blanca in Beverly Hills. I wanted to do it about Sir
Was
in
that
West
your
Hollywood.
idea?
Yes, it was. And we submitted the picture. And I brought in the cast to my co-producer. And actually, the cast I introduced him to right at the beginning was the cast that were pretty much on it for 8-9 years. And as you know, it's just been brought back. It's
Yes, congratulations.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, so all of those, I used to watch Vanderpump all the time. So all of those kind of OG players, they were working for you for years beforehand.
Yeah, I mean, obviously now you've got other people that come into it, Lala and James Kennedy, that have kind of immersed themselves in the foray, so to speak. James was with Kristen. That's a dedication to the cause, to shag somebody to get on a reality television show. I think that's what he did. He would deny that, but anyway, he's better off now. He's kind of he's sober and he's doing really well.
That's
but
awesome.
he went through a very bad. But yeah, Kristen, Stacy, Jax, Brittany wasn't involved with it.
Right.
Katie, Tom Schwartz didn't work for me, but he was kind of guilty by osmosis because he was with, Katie.
I mean, that's
Maloney.
wild though, because they are such a perfect cast for the show.
Yeah.
Like from season one.
And then it's changed, it's evolved, and there's a lot more people.
And
that
everyone's
kind
having
of,
babies now too.
I know, isn't that extraordinary?
It's wild.
But go ahead. But it has given me an incredible platform. And, I've been very involved with LGBTQ issues and equal rights. And then I have had Vanderpump Rules for 9 years now. And then I've, managed to do other things. I've produced Overserved, which is on E, which is all about
So
entertaining
fun.
and it's more like a talk show, but it's a lot of fun. And then I have the Vanderpump Dog Show coming out on Peacock, which is about my Vanderpump Dog rescue. So it's been a busy year with 4 shows, the 4th one just starting.
You just love making things happen, don't
Yes.
you?
I do. I'm very proactive. And, with COVID for the first 9 months, we were very scared. Ken's 16 years older than me. So I was, really cautious about him being a bit older. And we were very, very safe. And we saw Pandora and Jason, who live around the corner. It's my daughter and her husband. But even initially, we kind of had the social distancing and the quarantining just to make sure. And we really didn't go anywhere. I didn't have any help in the house because I have housekeepers and it's a lot of work, this house. But as soon as the whole kind of virus kind of kicked off, they wanted to be at home. We just didn't realize how long it'd be. So I kind of basically took it upon myself not to drop our standards and to keep going. But I didn't see anybody. My son, he didn't want to stay in Hollywood. So he went to work with autistic children in Idaho. And so he was there for about nearly 9 months.
Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. So it was all, whoops,
It's Becca's mom.
There she is again.
she is.
Popping in to check in, say hello.
Don't worry, Mummy, I'm on the hot seat now.
It won't get too inappropriate, mom.
Yeah.
What was the highlight? Was there any good parts of that for you though? Like, was it? I'm sure it was the first time in years where it was just
The two of
still
us.
and quiet. Yeah, and just the two of you.
Well, it's very different. I mean, for us, we're pretty social, but our restaurant business isn't just our business, it's our life as well. And we're very passionate about that. So we would be in Vegas every couple of weeks at our new restaurant there. We'd always be in Palm or Tom Tom. We'd just opened the other side of Tom Tom. I just decorated this gorgeous garden at the back of Tom Tom. Suddenly we were shut down. So it was more a worry of, okay, how are we going to fund this? Because a lot of restaurants went under, 10,000 restaurants went under. And a lot of our friends went under because they couldn't sustain it. Even though everybody got PPP, they got PPP.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, it wasn't enough and it wasn't quick enough because you still got to maintain your insurances. All our staff were pretty much furloughed and on unemployment. We kept on some staff, but, how are we going to keep on 300 staff with no restaurants open and nothing for them to do?
Right.
And people say, why didn't you keep your staff on? I would be broken a week. It'd be crazy.
Yeah.
But they were all on unemployment and furloughed. And it was very tricky. But for us to be totally shut down, we thought, okay, we had no idea of how long and the magnitude of this virus. I remember seeing the numbers climb thinking, will it get to 100,000? Now we've topped over 500,000 people have died in this country. I think we were so ill prepared, which is kind of crazy, really, because if you look over history, there has been so many pandemics. So, there's been a lot, but Housewives has given me a lot. And for that, my experience on a few seasons where I was pretty much, I think 4 or 5 out of the 9 seasons I was on, I was under attack pretty much. I had about 4 seasons where it was a bit of a gang up.
How did you keep going?
Yeah,
because I did 6 weeks of reality TV, and that was
and there was anger and the tears.
Crazy. How do you keep doing that year after year?
It was difficult, and I did actually have a couple of conversations where I say, I don't think I want to do this anymore. But I think I was an integral part of that cast, and I thought I had really authentic friendships. Clearly I didn't, because when I really floundered and really needed my friends, when my brother died, I felt totally different about life. I was looking for happiness, and it was just a very different experience. I wasn't as equipped. I'm never going to be a victim. I'm not going to say I was a victim of that. I should have been stronger and be able to stand up to it like I had every other year and be able to deal with it. I'm not a victim of anything. I might have been a recipient of a lot of negativity, but I'm not a victim of it, and I would never play that card. I would have been stronger under normal circumstances, and I wasn't, so I quit halfway through. And it was difficult for me to quit because there was a lot of pressure. I'm under contract. Financially, it was, took a big hit, and it just wasn't for me anymore, so I walked away.
Okay, broads, let's take a quick pause here. Listen, I have been loving native natural deodorant lately, which honestly, I wasn't sure I would ever say, because natural deodorant in my mind, well, it didn't always have the best experience for me when it comes to working. But then I tried native, and the rest, as they say, is history. Seriously, native natural deodorant keeps me smelling fresh all day long. But it even gets better, broads, because did you know Native has so much more to offer in the realm of natural wellness products?
Yes. Okay. Like Jess said, we already freaking love Native for their natural deodorant, but I got to say the rest of their line is equally amazing. Their body wash smells as amazing as their deodorant. Their toothpaste keeps my mouth fresh all day long. And their newest product is my all-time favorite, their mineral-based sunscreen. It's a broad spectrum SPF 30 for your face and body. It absorbs super quickly, and it keeps you protected from those harsh UV rays.
Like most people, I spend more than my fair share of time indoors last year, which means if there was ever a time to load up on sunscreen, it is now. So what perfect timing to find a new favorite. Native natural wellness products are quickly taking over my bathroom, and I'm not mad about it. Honestly, I love all their other products. I was shocked by how much I love them. So fun.
Stay fresh, stay clean with Native by going to nativedeo.com/chatty or use promo code chatty at checkout. Get 20% off your first order. That's nativedeo.com/chatty or use promo code chatty at checkout for 20% off your first order.
Okay, so you know those times when your brain is on overload, and if you write another email, you feel like you might self-destruct? Well, you don't want to just scroll aimlessly on social media. You're looking for that happy medium where your brain can relax but not completely zone out. Well, no, look no further, because Best Fiends is the answer.
Best Fiends is the ultimate mobile puzzle game that's the perfect way to take a brain break, pass the time, or wind down, because there's literally thousands of different levels and they add more each week, which means it doesn't matter if you play once a day or once a month. You're never going to run out of new puzzles to solve. You're never going to run out of levels to beat or characters to collect.
Like I said, my favorite time to play is those days where my email box will not let up. And just when I think I'm making progress, I get another email. The only way I can make it through the day, through a day like that, is to pull out Best Fiends and give myself a little brain break reward throughout the whole day. Email for an hour, 5-minute break. Email for 2 hours, 10-minute break. And before I know it, the day's over, and I usually have made some progress on my inbox and beaten a few levels of Best Fiends in the process.
We love it, and we know you will too. Download the 5-star rated puzzle game Best Fiends free today on the App Store or Google Play. That's friends without the R, Best Fiends.
How was it for your husband, Ken, to see you going through that? Because one of my favorite things about watching you on the show was the fact that you both are always such a united front, which like I so appreciate.
A team.
Yeah. How was that for him to see you having to go through all that all the time?
Well, I think he's protective.
Yeah.
And if he feels it's unjust and it's unwarranted, which I felt, and I think he obviously knew the truth, then he would be defensive. But I never understand when people will say, oh, you know, guys should keep out of it. If we're in a group situation and somebody is verbally accusing my husband of something, I was going to say, you know, you just sit right down there. Just because you love somebody, you're not going to stand by and watch them kind of abused or accused, so to speak.
No.
So, and I'm sure your husband would do the same.
Absolutely.
We were talking the other day. I personally feel like I can take someone hurling insults at me more than if all of a sudden someone's saying shit about Evan.
Yeah.
Oh, I am throwing drinks. Like, so I'm not happy.
Yeah.
So both of our partners, they now do a podcast episode on our podcast every other week.
They do?
They take over. So they call it the Chatty Bros.
Yes, they take over.
Do they talk crap about you guys?
Yes.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And
Revenge is so sweet.
Yes.
my not so media trained boyfriend, like every once in a while he'll say something and then everyone will come for him, you know, and be like, it's so funny because he said something, I don't remember what he said, and people were like defending me, you know, like you need to treat Becca better or whatever. I'm the one who, if anyone's abusing anyone, it's me to him. But, and then I was it's what she was saying. We were talking about it because I was so defensive. I was like,
Mama
he
bear.
is so good to me. Like, how dare you
For sure.
talk about him? So I can't imagine what he must have gone through.
Well, yeah.
Tears and upset.
And because also, you know, we have a very close relationship. I mean, no relationship's perfect for sure, but we've been married forever and a day, 39 years. And he would know, you know, so he was very defensive of me because he also knew where it was coming from. And I think you never need to say where it's coming from, but I think most people that were watching kind of know. I sometimes think the unspoken word is better. You don't need to say.
Yes, I definitely. Sorry, I was going to ask about then you two, if I can hop into that.
Yes, I was going to say we actually wanted to talk more about the show. We more wanted to talk about like your life and your experiences with family and your relationships. So.
Yeah, so I read that you and Ken got married after 6 weeks.
Engaged after
6 weeks, excuse me. Can you talk about that? I mean, was this just a whirlwind romance?
Young too. You said you were 21?
I was 21, yes. Ken knew my brother for a few years before I met him. And I was taking my brother to work because his car had broken down. It was in London. I'd bought my own place. I was very kind of industrious when I, younger. I bought my own place by the time I was 19 or 20. And I'd never had a penny from my parents. I'd always worked 2 jobs since I was like 13. I was very kind of proactive in everything I did. I was a young actress and my brother was staying with me, so I dropped him off at work. And then Ken was the owner of this nightclub. He had restaurants, a wine bar and a restaurant. And he came in and I had an instant attraction to him. But I mean, he's 16 years older than me as well. And he knew my brother. And he just kind of asked me out. And I actually said no. It was kind of a funny story, but I won't, it's a little laborious. And I said no. But then I ran into him a few weeks later and I started going out with him. And I don't know, it was just like I felt this he was so much fun. We had such great connection. I think in the first year that we were together, we barely spoke to anybody else. It was one of those relationships that we were so physically connected, and I found somebody I could play with. And he was naughty when I met him, you know?
Really?
Yeah, he was naughty. I mean, he used to shag everything that moved, and he was kind of...
So he had a reputation.
Oh, God, yeah, because he'd been single since he was about 21. He got married for 2 years when he was 19 until he was 21 and had a son. And then he'd been single pretty much for like 15 years. And then he met me, and then he just said to me, you know, I would never ask you to marry me because I know you don't want to get married. I said, ask me anyway. So will you marry me? I was like, yeah, I kind of conned him into it, really. There was no romantic proposal. I think we were actually in bed at the time, and he went out and bought me, when I showed him the ring, actually, about 5 years ago that he bought me, he kind of apologized, went, oh God, sorry, did I buy you that? I mean, it was pretty kind of like minuscule and everything.
Like,
but it wasn't important to me. We were madly in love. And then within 3 months, we got married. Yeah, and that was 39 years ago. I know, right? And everybody else at that wedding is either divorced or dead.
I mean, honestly, we've been together, my husband and I have been together for 10 years, and already half of our friends have been divorced.
Yeah, for sure.
39 years. I mean, that's...
Oh, I can't say I haven't wanted to get divorced at some time.
Well, of course.
Sometimes every time he's snoring, I want to put the pillow over his face and suffocate him. And I definitely think through COVID, you know, that was such an unusual situation, not having a space at all. But we live in this fantastic house, which has got these great views. And, you know, it really does feel like a sanctuary here. But it was a lot of work. As I say, I cannot speak to how much work it was. It was a full-time job because I didn't want to drop the standards. Yeah. And I wanted to cook every lunchtime and dinner and make things beautiful, because I'm all about that, trying to be your best self and make the best out of everything. And it's a beautiful space to be in. And he has his office, which is separate. So we had that space. But then also, you know, it was quite lonely. And also, Ken's not as talkative as I am. I can talk the hind legs off a donkey. You actually see the donkey's legs would drop off. I never stop talking. So often your husband doesn't give you back, you know, what you need. Sometimes I go, conversation, Ken. You know, it means like I'm just, you know. So I would do FaceTime. I would just kind of talk to some of my friends.
FaceTime him from the other room.
Yeah, not to him. I wouldn't do FaceTime to him. I would send him new pictures.
Yeah.
You know? And so we kind of survived like that. But some of it was actually glorious. That's the word I was used, because some of it, you know, being in the summer and cooking and actually really connecting with each other. And then Pandora and Jason were here some of the time. So yeah, it wasn't, but it was still devastating financially to us. We were, you know, obviously hurt very much by the pandemic with the restaurant business.
Oh, so you've been married, you said 39 years now? Do you have big plans for your 40th anniversary?
I never know if we'll make it, you know. I don't like to
every
look too
day,
far
keep
in
them
advance.
guessing.
I always looking for somebody I like better. I just didn't find them yet. There's no such thing as a perfect man. Anybody that says there is, trust me, it does not exist. Don't look at me like that. Anyway, trust me.
Evan on the sidelines.
Yeah. Okay, what do you think are some of the most okay, we've got a lot of young listeners, young women, some even much younger than us who listen.
That's why they're going to have to buy my book. As soon as I finish my book is written for, like, I wish I'd read my book when I was kind of in my 20s or older, just a kind of a fast track to
what is
some
it
of the
covering?
Things. Everything.
Everything?
About your life specifically.
About my observations and lessons I've learned and inspiration. And yeah, it's a book I've very much enjoyed writing. And when I say I've written it, I've written every damn fucking word, because I haven't given it to a ghostwriter. Wow. I'm going to hand it over soon. They're waiting for the last chapter. It needed a little bit of organization, but you know, I've been the editor of a magazine. I mean, and I've written, anybody that reads my blogs, I couldn't write it in a voice. People know me too well that it couldn't be inauthentic. It had to be from my voice. I sometimes get a little bit too frilly with my writing, but I've managed to kind of like hit the points and keep it kind of smart but simple.
Okay, so I've got two questions. My first question is, what was some of, I mean, this might be a little forward, but
no, not for me at all.
Okay, what were some of the most difficult times in your relationship with your husband, and how did the two of you make it through together?
Well, I think you have to be prepared for life shit that is going to be thrown at you. And I know that sounds harsh, but if you're going to go into a marriage or relationship, there's a reason for these vows, that for better, for worse, in sickness and in health, rich or poorer. We've had times that have been so stressful, where we've had things that have jeopardized our business, things that have been unfair and unjust, where we have the kind of stress. I don't do well with stress. I am a fighter. Even though they say fight or flight. So that sometimes has been very difficult to deal with. When we're in a business and we've really kind of been tested, and you kind of end up losing it with each other. And then you think, okay, let's regroup. This is circumstantial. I think grief, that's been difficult for me.
I was wondering about that, about how it has been navigating your relationship through grief and through sudden, unexpected loss.
Very difficult.
And navigating that in the public eye as well.
That was even now, it's hard for me to talk about because it's his birthday tomorrow.
Oh.
Very difficult, yeah. Very difficult. Because when I talk about this in my book as well, when you have one sibling, that's just your playmate, that's who you kind of experience everything growing up with. And he was 16 months older than me.
Wow.
So we were kind of like twins. Wow. And also girls kind of mature a bit, quicker than boys, as always. Take note. And he was, my best friend growing up. And then we had, a fractious relationship that would go backwards and forwards. We would argue, then we wouldn't talk, then we would talk. But we laughed about things in our childhood. So for him to commit suicide, that threw me into a complete tailspin. Yeah. I was just like, so I think but he was very supportive. But that was only 3 years ago. And then my mother died the year later, unexpectedly as well, of a blood clot, gone within 10 minutes. So to lose half my family that was difficult. And I had to pull myself out of depression. I really did flounder. When my brother died, I floundered. I thought you don't think I can't go on because I have children and a family that loves me, but I knew I would go on, but I didn't know how to go on. Right. I didn't know how to open the fridge, see there's no milk and not cry about there being, it was just, everything seemed overwhelming for the first. So I've been very open about this. I sought help. I went to a grief counselor just a couple of times, and it made me feel so much better. And for an English woman that's kind of eschewed therapy, us always stiff upper lip and that kind of thing, it really did help. And I took antidepressants. I've never taken anything, even going through all the hormonal changes as a woman. I've never taken anything. And I did take Wellbutrin, and I felt that kind of helped me, but I couldn't talk about it without crying. And of course it was just so prevalent, and it was so unfair. And my brother's sons are just most incredible boys. And it was just very, very difficult. But relationships, I think if you pull together through the tough times, you really appreciate each other with the good times. And then you never know whether you could have gotten through that without them. So it almost cements you, because you think, oh my God, if he hadn't been here, how would I have done when you survive something? So, but yeah, we've had moments where I've screamed at him where he's drunk too much, or I hate him, or, of course, like every relationship, or you're flirting, or I think you did this, or I think you did that, or I was here. Well, of course, we're a normal relationship, but 39 years, there's a lot of kindness and there's a lot of goodness that's gone, a lot of loyalty. And I would always say that if you expect a relationship to be perfect, you're always going to be disappointed, because that's not life. But anyway, I enjoy talking to young women and mentoring them. And I've been on this planet a lot longer than a lot of people that follow me,
Sure, yeah.
So, but yeah, life is not easy. And I think that people will look at you as they see you living this life, and they see you with a beautiful house and business, and it's very glittery. But that old adage that all that, glitters is not gold, everybody is going to experience depression. It's normal to feel those low moments. It's normal to feel overwhelmed. And just because we live in this idealistic world where we're looking on social media where everything looks perfect, it's not.
Yeah.
And as we've seen with Housewives, where you think you know these people as a family and suddenly they're split up. You're like, well, where did that happen? Well, I thought we were watching a real life.
I thought it looked
and suddenly you're
great on screen.
separated. Like when Yolanda and David suddenly got divorced. Like, what? I was like, you didn't see that coming. So, everybody has their shit. It's just how much they want to show of it, really. And I think if we have a better understanding of that, then we realize we're not alone in this mess that we call life.
Oh, yeah, 100%. When I hear about, even with Jess and Evan, who've been together so long, when they're talking about fighting or arguing, I'm like, oh, okay.
It's normal.
Like, it's not just me.
Yeah.
It's not because my relationship's fucked up and maybe we don't, maybe we're not as connected as other people. All that's normal. Also, I think sometimes, you're saying you live in this glittery, idealistic world. I think for some people, they think that's all they need. And one day when they get that, then they'll be happy. But then sometimes when you get what you want, you realize I still feel just as like empty inside now that I have everything that I want.
Any time that you put the importance on objects, thinking that will make you happy, it's fun to want things. I think to want is a good thing. It's,
of course,
it drives you on and you think, and I'm always looking for my new challenge, but that is not what's going to make you happy. It's relationships that make you happy. And also, as I say, you'll always go through crap, but it's how you deal with it, really. And, how connected you feel to your partner. And it's challenging bringing up children. Are you both going to be on the same page? Are you both going to have...
Right.
I'd always say united you stand, divided you fall. Children are way too smart and they will literally kind of weave
figure out anything.
Yeah.
If mom says you can and dad says you can't, I'm going to try to just weave around all of that.
Exactly.
Oh, gosh.
I heard someone say too once, I don't know if it was my mom or who told me, but someone said, like loving your kids is easy. You're never going to stop loving your kids. It's your partner that you have to really, it's like the energy you have to put into loving the person is with your partner. That's what you really have to put your attention and time into. Because your kids, you love them no matter what.
I just think you've got to go in with the sentiment, I'm going to make it work. And I just heard the most beautiful story from Domenico Dolce of Dolce & Gabbana. I know it sounds, but in my garden, he sat there and he talked about how his mother said, I am going to make it work. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And the way he explained that story to me, the old Italian family, I'm going to make it work. And I was thinking, you don't hear that nowadays. It's just like, well, I'm this and everybody. No, if you go in, okay, we're going to work it out. Now, I think the boundaries of respect are hugely important.
Right.
And I would implore you and urge you, if you go down that path of disrespecting each other, it's very difficult to come back from that. So you need to stop right there and say, well, hold on a second. You're going to talk to me like that. I'm not going to continue the conversation. But, I married a good man, but not a perfect man. And so if you know that the person you've got has got good values, but do we get things wrong? Of course we do. Yeah. Of course we. And I think forgiveness and humor, I mean, God, I want to be the best wife. To me, I want to be the best cook, the best housekeeper. I always remember Jerry Hall saying, I want to be a housekeeper in the house, a cook in the kitchen, a whore in the bedroom. I wanted I remember thinking that, wow, way to go. So, I take being a wife and a mother very seriously, even though, I'm not a normal person. I'm a little kind of idiosyncratic. I mean, like a little bit individual. I'm very passionate about everything I do. Everything I do. I put like 1,000% in it. I, don't stroke my dog. I make out with my dog. I don't, I'm very driven about everything. I love food. I love music. I love flowers. I love work. I love people. I'm very passionate about everything I do.
Yeah. And I imagine just to speak to listeners, like I'm sure sometimes what's difficult is people get in relationships with someone that does not have the same passion about making it work as they do.
And get out.
I just wanted to touch on that too and be like, I know you know, sometimes I just read messages from women who are like, you know, my husband basically doesn't do shit, you know, and doesn't want to work to make our relationship better, or to communicate with me.
Yes.
The worst.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
When there's apathy about something, that's when I'm like,
right. Apathetic about the relationship. So I just wanted to speak to that
Also,
too.
I think very early on in a relationship, you can pretty much tell whether somebody has the best intention for you and they support you and they want you to do well. Like whatever I did, Ken's never told me off. He's never said, what the fuck were you thinking? You know, if I literally decided to dance on the bar and pump tonight, calm down everybody, I'm not going to do it.
there's a line out the door.
He would actually go, wow, you were really out there last night. He would never really tell me off. He's kind of, if I write a book, he thinks it's going to be a bestseller. He's going to, if I'm on Dancing with Stars, which I got boosted off after about 5 weeks, he will think I'm going to win. So to have that support, you know, even though if it's unfounded. And I think, you know, if somebody's trying to put you down,
right,
or minimize
or
your
embarrass
efforts,
you,
that's probably not going to change through the whole relationship. And that normally means because that person is coming from a negative place in your life. Now, unless they've got qualities that supersede that, walk away. I think there's very good indications of who somebody is and what your relationship's going to be like. You just got to, nothing's perfect, but if there's a few of those key things that you see very early on in a relationship, you're probably not going to change them.
I agree. And I think they're very clear early on. It's just then sometimes you have those glasses on and it's like everything they're doing. But to try to be clear, the pheromones are raging.
Although, like you've experienced just recently with people who you thought were your friends, sometimes the people that you think you know years down the road, you maybe don't know them as well as you think. And I know that happens to people too. I'm
not somebody that ever really needs to lean on their friends because I'm not really that person. I'm more the mother and the matriarchal figure. And but I think if you do need to lean on somebody and they're not there for you, that's a good indication as well.
What hurts you the most in a friendship in that way? So if you're the one...
loyalty.
Okay. So
I think that's hard to come back from. And I talk about that in my book. There's 7 billion people on the planet. If somebody really doesn't have best intention for you, go find one of the other 6,999,000. You know?
You got a lot of options.
Yeah, I mean, unless somebody really, there's contrition or somebody really realizes they've made a mistake and are deeply sorry, then maybe you can recover from it. But if it's just, no, that's it.
Well, you seem like somebody, though, who values yourself. And I think that's something that a lot of young women struggle with is feeling like we have worth.
Yeah, for sure.
Being worthy of people treating us right, being worthy of a healthy relationship, of good, loyal friends. Were you always that way? Do you always feel like you had a sense of confidence?
I feel like I should be treated properly. And I feel that, you know, you should be enough on your own. And I also think that when you sleep with somebody, I'm not talking about, you know, you can have that mad, crazy love affair and meet somebody and straight away it's like so overwhelming you don't even get up the stairs. I get that. But also, as a woman, think I'm letting that person in my body that couldn't be more personal. And I'm not saying don't shake your socks off or, you know, if you really meet somebody you're incredibly attracted to, but look at it for that it's a mutually beneficial situation. But if you're really looking for a relationship, is this person worthy of you? And that's not coming from an arrogance, that's coming from a secure feeling as a woman that I am worthy and I deserve to be treated right.
Yeah. And also about discernment.
I treat people the way that, you know, like when you told me that story, you said that I gave you $10 because you were carrying.
Well, you actually paid the valet for me. You didn't even give me the money.
Well,
you saw that I had an armful of things and you took care of it for me.
And yeah, but I think all those little things are so important in life. And listen, I can't be best friends with everybody I work with. I don't profess to be. I have hundreds of people who work for me.
Sure.
But, you know, there's a reason that I can have a housekeeper that will live here or be with me for 13 years.
Or that you were saying on our podcast we just did with you earlier that you were at the birth
was
in the room.
I think that does say a lot.
That says a lot about somebody.
Yeah, because then you're valuing people as the person in front of you, not just what they can do for you, like we were talking about.
Yeah. And I think that, I think respect is very important.
Yeah.
I think if you give respect, then you get it back. It's reciprocated.
I have a question for you. Do you believe in soulmates?
I do. I do believe in soulmates, but I don't believe you have one soulmate. I just think that, when people get hung up on one person, when there's so many people that could possibly be right. And this is what frustrated me about my brother. He got caught up in something, and it's, there are so many people that could be. Now, will it be better? Maybe it'd be better physically. Maybe it'd be better financially. Maybe it'd make you laugh more. Maybe, I don't know what it is, but there's other people. So if you've had your heart broken by one person, take time to heal, but know that you're worthy of meeting somebody else, and somebody else is going to make you happy again. It's hard to hear when you're right in the middle of it.
Yes.
Write a list of all their shitty moves, keep it on your phone, and look at it every time you're going to pick up the phone.
Every time you're about to go to sleep. Just do a quick little glance over.
Well, broads, let's take a quick pause. Listen, the end of the school year is just around the corner for a lot of kiddos, but that doesn't mean the exploration and learning should take a pause. Actually, for my daughter, summertime is the best time because we get to do even more learning activities together. Our absolute favorite way to learn and play is with KiwiCo. We love KiwiCo, the learning experience craft crate that is specifically curated to help teach your child new concepts in science, technology, math, art, and so much more.
I love KiwiCo so much for little ones, yes. Can we just talk about how great it is for parents? Because every single crate is so perfectly curated. It's planned out to help your child understand the subject holistically, and the instructions are simple to follow. And every single thing you need is included. No more tearing apart closets, looking for Scotch tape at the last second, or running to the store for glue. Once you open the crate, the fun can begin immediately. And oh my God, they always have fun.
They have so much fun. Ember is absolutely obsessed with anything having to do with the solar system right now, which is perfect because this one that I'm holding up right here is one focused on the solar system. I'm so excited to show her. She's going to freak out. But for real, broads, I think we must be by now on our 15th or 16th crate with KiwiCo, and every single one has been so fantastic. And like we were saying, everything comes included. That's my favorite part. And also the instructions that they're made primarily for each kid of a specific age. So the kids can do the instructions and follow it along all by themselves. It's amazing. Oh. Highly recommend. Also a great gift. I always say that. Great gift if you know people with kids.
Yes. And it's an activity too, for a kid's birthday party, instead of getting them another toy that's just going to,
Exactly.
It's an activity.
Exactly.
Interactive. With KiwiCo, there's something for every kid or kid at heart every month. You can get 30% off your first month plus free shipping on any crate line with code CHATTY at kiwico.com. That's 30% off your first month at KIWICO.com, promo code CHATTY.
Summer is officially here. Okay, not officially, but by my standards and the standards of Los Angeles weather, summer is here, which means
it's 8 months.
Yes, it's 8 months. I'm planning and plotting with my perfect outdoor space, what that's going to look like. And it's going to have my favorite furniture brand, Article. That's the only way that it's going to be good, okay, is Article. Article just released their newest collection, Garden Terrace, and I will tell you, I have never wanted to host an outdoor luncheon so badly in my life than I did after browsing this collection. I want my backyard to look like Villa Rosa, okay, honestly. Oh. And with Article, we're getting closer. We're getting closer.
Yes, I feel that. Believe it or not, Jess and I are ladies who luncheon, and now we can luncheon in style. And if you've never shopped Article before, here's the deal. They combine the curation of a boutique furniture store with the comfort and simplicity of shopping online, and the whole experience is just a breeze. The design team at Article focuses solely solely on just a few distinct aesthetics like mid-century, Scandinavian, Bohemian. It's so simple to shop within those collections, and you can rest assured that everything will always complement each other.
And let's not forget the best part, the prices, because Article cuts out the middleman by eliminating showrooms and selling directly to you. There are no retail markups. You'll save up to 30% off traditional prices. I've got so many pieces from Article at this point. It's hard to pick a favorite. The designs are timeless. The materials are luxurious. I love all my Article pieces. I send everyone straight to Article when I know they're looking for furniture, and they always say, "Thank you so much. We love you. We adore you even more somehow now."
Jessica, thank you. We bow down at your feet. We kiss the ground you walk on for recommending us.
You're
Article.
welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Article's offering our listeners $50 off your first purchase of $100 or more. Go to article.com/chatty. The discount's going to be automatically applied at checkout. That's article.com/chatty. You're going to get $50 off your first purchase of $100 or more. Get at it, broads.
I have a very different question, which is, we were talking about it earlier, and you were just kind of talking about having help and all those sorts of things. And my question to you was, you are someone, like you said, when we were talking earlier, you like doing everything yourself. You're like, I paint my own nails. I even, during COVID, you were cleaning nails, everything, which I know some people may roll their eyes and be like, oh, she had to clean the whole house herself. I mean, we live in a 1,200 square foot home, and I can barely keep that up. I do have 2 small children though, so,
Yeah.
But I only have the one, and I still
it's a lot of work. Anyway, regardless, my question was, I'm sure at some point in your career, in your life, you had to start practicing letting go of some control with business, with caretaking for the kids. How did you start practicing relinquishing some of that control? I struggle so hard with it, even with an assistant, going through emails. You're
going to be surprised I don't have an assistant.
Really?
Yeah.
Love that. How?
Okay. Pandora helps me a lot.
Oh,
She does a lot.
Ruth one day, Ember one day, our daughters.
We're waiting.
Put them to work.
Exactly. Create that person that you want. That is a good question. And as a mother, I was very, very tactile. I grew up without tactile parents. I didn't have the kind of physical love that I craved. I came from this kind of British family, even though they were very avant-garde and everything. And I even actually had the conversation with my father today, because he left a message. Oh my God, he's never going to hear this. Thank God. But he left a message and he said, "Oh, yep, Bruce Daddy, I've seen your show. Oh, we get it over here. Yeah, it's definitely a departure from, your normal kind of show that you do. Yeah, it's different like that. Okay, call me." So I called him back and I thought, what the fuck? And I, never confront my parents because, my mother passed, but never confront my parents, always deferential to them, very respectful. And I said, you know what? I said, it would be nice if you could just have like a bit of enthusiasm about something.
We relate very hard to this.
Right?
Speaking to my heart.
No word, affirmational words.
Nothing. And I said, and I've never said this to him before, and it was just before you got here, actually, and I was okay with it, actually, because I just said, look, sometimes it would be nice, especially when people are receiving things that I'm hearing praise from other people. It would be nice to be validated by
people I care about,
right? And he went, and this way, he said, well, yes, probably shouldn't have left it in a message. I said, no, it's not about the message, Daddy. It's actually about, could you not just say one, thing positive?
Yeah. Even just congratulations on your new show.
That would be enough. How about that? But my parents were the master of understatement. So I kind of, when I was a mother, I was still a mother, but when I actually had that job before I was made redundant, and they left me, and trust me, there's a reason they live right near me, because I wouldn't let them out of my sight. But I had a nanny, but I had to have a nanny because we had nighttime businesses. Mm-hmm. So for me to have a different babysitter in all the time that I wasn't sure of, and that can be a nightmare. I know even with friends now, they're saying, oh, we haven't got this help and that help. So I had a nanny. I had some amazing nannies that I wasn't much older than them, and we had a blast. We just had so much fun together. But that was difficult, but I had rules with nannies. Vanderpump rules, you know me, guys. I had Vanderpump rules. I was just like, I don't really want you kissing on them because I want my children to know that physical love, and I more than made up for it. I didn't want them kissing on them, of course. And if they did something that was their new thing, I didn't want them to tell me about it. Like, I did not want to come home from work, and I would not work very much, but something's got to give. You can have it all, but you got to give. You've got to let go of some things. So you do have those moments when somebody else might be looking after your kids, but I was a very hands-on mother. I was, and I wasn't working that much when they were younger at all. But we were doing property development and things like that. But I said I didn't want to come home and Nanny to go, oh, Pandora took her first step today. So I was always like, if they discover anything, even if you tell me afterwards, I want to discover it.
Yes.
And they were my life. I mean, they were my life, and maybe my only regret is that I could have had more children, but I just got super busy, you know. And then, so I had Pandora and then adopted Max. We were going to have one, adopt one, have one, and adopt one. And we had one, adopted one. And actually, Max was probably like adopting two, maybe. And then it was enough. And then we got busy, and you know, I had two children. Ken's got a son from another marriage when he was 19. And maybe that was enough. And then we tried sex selection, because then we thought we'd want to have a girl. I didn't want to have a biological boy after adopting Max, you know, because then he'd feel like the adopted child in the middle. So we thought, right, we'd have another girl. And we tried sex selection twice and it didn't work. And then we just thought, oh, fuck it, you know, we're like busy enough. And then we were traveling, and then we kind of moved here for a few years, then moved back to England. We lived in France. So another thing, I've lived and done so many different things. You know, we've lived in different countries. We've said, come on, let's pick up, let's go. Felt so secure as a family unit. I'd take on anything, you know, like if they said, oh, we want to go and live in Australia now, you know, like now, even I'd say, yeah, let's go. Because to me, as you turn those pictures of the book of life, it's just, I don't want it to be predictable. You know, I mean, of course, life throws at you some challenging things too, which I've had to deal with in the last few years, you know. And even Jiggy dying, that knocked us for 6. We expected it, but, you know, Jiggy was our love dog. And, so it kind of went like my brother, and then it went my mother, then it went the pandemic, and then it went Jiggy. And I think it was like bam, 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 you know. So yeah, life sometimes, you know, it was hard to have the business closed down and things. But, you know, we get up, we fight, we're strong. Ken and I are strong, and we're productive, you know, but we were prepared for everything. We weren't prepared for that. We insured our businesses for everything, and same as our friends. And suddenly this hit them.
Sure.
And some of our friends just went like, you know, just had to walk away from it, which is such a shame to see somebody's, normally people, if they're in the restaurant business, normally pretty passionate about it.
Something
you know?
that they've put everything into.
I asked you though about that because it's something I've struggled with. We literally just hired a nanny like last month, and it was after 2 years of like, I was like, I can't, like something's got to give. And I never thought I would be a workaholic. And then it was like maybe 6 months ago where I realized, oh, I'm a workaholic. I don't want to stop. I'm always taking on new projects and I love it. And something's got to give. It's either my relationship with my kids or these projects that I love doing. And it took so much for me to even just like hire someone for 20 hours a week. And I used to be a nanny. I know that like nannies give so much love, and I know that
do you trust your nanny though? Totally.
Oh, I do. And she's actually 30 years older than me, which I love. But anyway, yeah, I just asked because I find myself having such a hard time giving up control just over everything from business stuff to kids stuff.
You might not be at your best if you were just kind of looking after your kids. And
I wasn't. Everything was suffering. My relationship with my kids was not, because I was giving them half of my attention. You know,
so
my
you
attention
need
to
that
my
stimulation.
Things. Absolutely.
So I'm all about that. Now, if you think, okay, maybe for just the first few years, you want to give that part of your life. So for me, I need a lot of mental stimulation to keep me happy. So, and if I'm happy, my children are happy. But you have to remember that your children are not going to remember the times you're not there. They're going to remember the times you're there. So if you're there and you're happy and you're present, then as I said, I worked, but then I would give 3 months a year of working at the kids' school, because I enjoyed it so much. I loved having my children, but I also enjoyed my time, where
Doing
I
your
would
thing,
have
yeah.
my thing. And I think that's very important. But you do have to give up control of of some things, absolutely, and let some things go. But I also know when to turn down things and say, no, I'm not doing that.
Oh yeah, that's tough.
And say, no, I'm too busy. I can't do that.
Was that something you had to cultivate? Did you used to say yes to everything?
No, not really. I'm kind of, I said yes to this, right?
Yeah.
I'm here.
That's true.
So my podcast has been fascinating because I have enjoyed meeting people and really kind of enjoyed talking to people and always inquisitive. And I think you can always learn something from everybody. So that's been really kind of an amazing journey. But I do say that's why I hold my friends in such high regard. My good friends, I look forward to seeing. I'm stimulated by talent, by people's enthusiasm for life. I don't want to waste it on people that are negative. I hate people that play the victim. That's why I was always very careful to you when I said that, even though I felt like I was under attack, the whole cast. I am not a victim of anything. Like, I am going to push through it, and I'm going to, and if I can't deal with it, then I need to dig deeper and find out how I can. And sometimes dealing with it is walking away.
True.
Oh gosh.
Was that difficult for you when you went on antidepressants, just out of curiosity?
I'm just not sure about medication. I mean, mind you, I'd always say take the vaccine because the vaccine seems to be a lot safer than getting the possibility of getting the virus. So I'm totally pro-vaccine because I don't think polio or measles or anything was cured by herd immunity. It was cured by vaccines, and this has been devastating. But antidepressants, because even hormonally, as I've been through the ups and downs, I think women have to understand that you're not going to feel good all the time.
Right.
And men don't go through these hormonal changes.
Sure.
And going on this kind of ride is just quite extraordinary, where you wake up and you think, well, everything's really good and it's really fine and business is fine, but I feel like shit. I can't cope. Those are the words that would come into my mind. I can't cope. That's what I think you feel hormonally. And if you understand that I can't cope is basically your hormones in your brain, and you think, okay, is everything actually okay? Yes, it is. So this is just my hormones. So get on and push through it. And with exercise as well, I think it's a huge component for mental health. I really do. I think you're going to be much more balanced, well balanced, if you really kind of do something every day, whether you want to or not, do it, because it's going to be so beneficial to you in the long run, and especially as you get older. But always multitask. If you don't like exercise, watch a movie when you do it. Talk on the phone, dictate something.
Yeah.
I dictate so much stuff when I'm on the treadmill. Siri, I've told Siri to fuck off so many times. So many of my dictations at me going, oh, all alert, no, all out, no, not all out, all alert, no,
Just
no,
as you're going.
fuck off, Siri.
But I think that's such a good point, Lisa. I know we've talked about mental health a lot on the podcast. I personally was diagnosed with bipolar numerous years ago. And I think it's so important, first of all, that you're open about the fact that you started taking medication. I think a lot of people aren't. And I think for people seeing someone like you who, has got it all together, is doing a million things, has won all these awards, and it's like, but she still might need this.
Yeah.
And I think that gives people
That's okay.
a lot of encouragement. But those tips, the exercise and then the multitasking, I know for myself personally,
Distract yourself. When you're doing
Distraction.
something you don't like, distract yourself.
a distraction, and then also
And I don't
when you
mean
have,
ladies read a book when you're having sex.
no need to text when you're having sex, no need to scroll through Instagram. No, but also then where you have all these projects that you're passionate about. And I know for myself, when I would be in this slump, I would let myself get complacent. I would let myself kind of just be too much stillness. But the moving your body, moving your mind, starting different projects, it really is a type of therapy, I believe, a type of cognitive therapy.
proactive to get through it.
Yeah.
Because if you just sit there, it will wash over you and it will envelop you. And and I think with grief, you might need, just kind of a minute. you know,
course.
to just
Yes.
actually
Of
think,
course.
okay, this is just too much to bear.
Yeah.
But I just think, being proactive. Yeah.
Well, and we're in a culture, I think, that doesn't really like know how to deal with grief. Like if someone, you know, is
Yes.
crying or whatever in front of you, a lot of people are just like, I don't know how to deal with this. Like, you know, I think we're conditioned to kind of believe that happiness sort of has to be the default. And so when you're thrown into something out of your control, like a very serious situation where you're full of grief, I've been there with a super sudden loss and you have to remind yourself that it's normal and no one's going to handle it the same way, right? It's like everyone's going to process grief differently, and it's okay to not be okay for a little while. And that honestly might
and if
be
you're listening to a
long
friend, you know,
time.
I don't think you want to hear from a friend that, oh, I get it too, because when I lost that, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah.
No.
Because suddenly it's okay to just be and just say, I'm here.
Right.
Just to hold your hand and just to listen. Just to listen. Sometimes that's all you need, is just to have somebody and say, I love you. I'm going to make you a cup of tea and I'm just here. And I just can only, you know, imagine how hard this is.
Yeah, and also
Not just to minimize somebody, because we try to minimize other people's problems to kind of talk
Make
them
it
out of it.
comfortable,
But
too.
that sometimes isn't what you need. You just need somebody to go, well, hold on a
And
second.
I think often that's about like your own discomfort. Like if I'm uncomfortable that you are grieving, and because
and I don't know how to handle it.
I don't want to handle my discomfort, so I just try to be like, you're gonna be fine. Let's just go out instead of just
Time heals
sitting.
all.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I experienced it too. You're gonna be fine. It's like, no, it's important to sit with someone.
And also I think we've talked about this on the podcast before, but also don't be so afraid to acknowledge someone's grief either. I remember my mom talking about the friends that didn't reach out to her because they weren't sure about saying the wrong thing or something.
That's devastating.
yeah.
She said those were the friendships that she had a hard time recovering from after
because
that.
and especially if somebody sends you a note or something, that's not actually asking you how you are. So to me, I want to say to somebody, listen, I'm here. I'm going to call you. I'm going to be here. You can, when I've said to a good friend, if you need me, you can call me any time of the day or night, and I'm not going to ask, what do you want? I'm just going to say, where are you? I'll be there. To me, that's what a really good friend should do. You know, it's very important, I think, that you have some people in your life that you have that indomitable support, because shit happens. And, you know, I've had friends that have just been incredible through that whole, and also they're dealing with their loss as well, because some of my friends, you know, knew my brother really pretty well. So, you know, it was devastating. But, you know, as I say, you cannot think, if you acknowledge that in life you're going to go through these incredible ups and downs, and sometimes it can be really, really challenging.
Do you ever have anxiety now that like, oh, is another bad thing is going to be around the corner?
That's strange you say that, because you do get a certain kind of PTSD with, I think my mother and my brother so quickly, like as soon as if I get a call from London, and even if it's a bit later or a bit earlier, then I always think, oh, my father. And then my father fell over and he broke his shoulder. Then he broke his hip. So you always think that if there's a phone call from my nephews, right, I think,
it's going to be
what
an
is it?
emergency. Yeah.
yeah. So there is a kind of PTSD there, I think. you
Yeah,
know,
and sometimes it's like, oh, things have been going really good lately. When's like the next shoe about to
we're
drop?
conditioned to think like that. I mean, if you kind of watch a happy scene in a movie and they're all kind of
You know,
singing in a
something's
car,
coming.
something's around the
and
corner.
you think, oh yeah, what's it? It's going to be a car crash in a minute.
Yeah.
So
No,
I
that's so
think
true.
sometimes when things are going really well, then you kind of feel insecure, thinking, well, how long is this going to last? You know, what else can happen? But that is life, and some shit will happen. And it will be,
Is that how you cope with it?
in a way, I just, you know, it's round the corner.
Yeah.
But it happens to everybody, you know, and it's just how you deal with it.
Yeah, and you know you'll survive it.
Exactly.
You've survived things already.
And, you know, for me, it's ironic because I'd worked with the Trevor Project for LGBTQ suicide prevention. I never thought that suicide would touch my life. So having been an ambassador for this Trevor Project, done their PSAs, always feeling this kind of incredible empathy, sympathy for LGBTQ youth that felt the need to take their own life because maybe they wouldn't be accepted or were struggling with their sexual orientation. To me, to judge people by the color of their skin, their religion, their sexual orientation is just, go ahead, judge everybody, but not by that. Go ahead, judge. I'm all about judging. You're an asshole. How about that? So I just think that you judge people. Do go ahead and call them out, but not on something like that. Otherwise, I was raised to believe you're going to lose out a lot of great people.
Yeah. I have one more thing I want to talk to you about that I'm very curious about. You grew up sort of doing show business stuff, did you not? Like from a pretty young age. Was that, I'm just curious, because for some reason someone just asked me about that the other day, like, oh, would you put your kids like, in modeling and acting and that kind of stuff? And I was like, oh, I don't know. My parents were like, I always wanted to do it when I was a kid. And my parents were like, no.
Lucky your parents said no to you sometimes.
I'm very lucky. I don't know what I would have gotten myself into, but was that your desire? Was that your parents' desire? Like, sort of, how did you get involved in that world and how did that affect your childhood?
Well, I was 9 years old and my brother, as I say, 16 months older than me, and he was in the year above me. And then he was graduating to go to his next school. But I was in a class that I should have been in the class below, but I was reasonably right for my age and kind of, so I was a year ahead of myself. So my parents said, well, you can go to dancing school. Anybody at CBS Dancing with the Stars wouldn't believe this. But this was a long time ago, folks. Now I could barely put my socks on. But I went to dancing school when I was 9 for a year. And they said that I could go to a stage school. And so I loved it. And then I went as a boarder at 9 years old. I mean, send your kids to boarding school at 9 years old. But I was like, even then, I kind of was confident. I liked it. And I could kind of really had a good time kind of at dancing school. So I ended up staying there until I was 17, and I didn't go to college. I talk about this in my book as well, about interviewing people, about young people coming to me for jobs. And I didn't go to college. And I was signed by London Weekend, which ostensibly is like one of the big networks, like an ABC or NBC, for a year on a series called Kids, where I played this young girl that'd been in foster care. And so I was on that series for a year. But I mean, I was very well known on the commercial circuit. I used to do a lot of commercials. And so I managed to kind of buy my own place. By the time I was 19, as I said, I bought my own apartment in London. And it was a different life. In fact, George Segal just died, and I was Glenda Jackson's daughter in one of his great films, Touch of Class. And George Segal used to give me piggybacks around the park. And so I was really sad to see him pass because he was such a lovely man. But I enjoyed it. But my parents were always very strict. And, I'd done 40 weeks work as an actress. By the time I was 12, I had my full equity card by the time I was 12. And we used to have chaperones that used to take us to these. But it was never really discussed. Nobody ever asked me that, if you noticed on Housewives. It was never brought up, never asked. Because there were 2 actresses there already.
That is very interesting. That is very interesting.
You don't want to shine the light on somebody else.
You're like, quick second, we're having a round table about acting. Hello.
No, it was never,
Interesting.
But you felt like it was all a good experience, and like
it was a very positive experience. There were very, very stringent rules in England at the time. I think you were allowed to work something like 40 days a year when you were under 13 and 90 days after that.
Well, that's excellent.
Yeah,
I don't think we have the same quite of
it was like that. And then I worked a lot and I loved doing it. I was pretty well balanced as a teenager. I mean, of course, I was naughty, and we all do things that, I don't think I could say regret, but you learn from,
Would you ever hit the stage again?
I've done a couple of little cameo parts. Like I did something with Lisa Kudrow and just on The Comeback, and I did something on American Housewife acting. And I did actually do a play here, Noel Coward play. This was a few years ago, called Private Lives, which was just a great part. And I did that in theatre here. But I could, but honestly, I've got so much going on with my podcast, with my book, with 4 television shows and opening a new restaurant.
Like,
and
how am I going to?
Existing restaurant and, creating our wine brand and everything. It's been a lot. But also, I am really involved with our philanthropy. Vanderpump Dogs has been a huge commitment. And to all the people that have requested cameos from me, you have raised $200,000 for the Vanderpump Dog Foundation.
Oh,
so
my
I've been doing cameos
God.
left, right, and center. Kevin be like, "What do you mean? Hurry up!" And I'll be like, "No, hold on a second. Let's do a cameo," and like that. And all the money has gone to the Vanderpump Dog Foundation through the pandemic.
Wow.
So it's over $200,000 now.
That's amazing.
And not a penny's gone to me, unfortunately. I'd have loved to have gone to Chanel with that money, guys.
I'm
But it's all
exhausted
gone
from
to the
this
Vanderpump Dog Foundation and saved thousands of dogs. We're up to something like 2,500 dogs that we've saved domestically, but also we've had a reach, all through the world, spaying and neutering something like 25,000 dogs a year.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Well, I always appreciate how, even just seeing from the shows and whatnot, how you always put a really big focus on giving back with
Very
what
important.
you've been given.
Yeah, I think everybody should all do. It doesn't matter how little you do, because I'm very cognizant of not asking people for money. We have incredible donors that sometimes will say, "We want to support your foundation. We see what you're doing." But you don't know people's financial situation. Sure. We have a gala every year that's always sold out, but obviously we didn't have this year, which would normally fund the Vanderpump Dog Foundation and World Dog Day, but obviously everything was on hold. But I think, like my restaurant Villa Blanca that's just closed through the pandemic, it won't reopen again because the lease has expired though as well. So that expired in the midst of the pandemic. But it was 14 years. It was a long time. But we used to cook the food every Monday for the homeless. But this was prior to me being on Housewives. This was for the last 14 years. So I think more restaurants should give back to the community, because what are you going to bring 2 people in an hour early and they're going to cook, pizzas or pastas, soft food normally for homeless because, dental problems and stuff, and then deliver it to the church. It's very little work for us to do, but to give back to the community. And I think if you go to your church, well, Becky, you probably won't be allowed in, but if you could get somebody else to go to your
just burst
church.
into flames the minute I walk
you're
in.
combust.
God says, nah.
Spontaneous combustion.
Not in here.
God loves me too.
And I think that if you, and just say, how can I help? Because we would always be very involved with the food, and then we'd say, okay, what else do you need? And they would say, we need shoes. I was like, shoes? Oh, yeah, because most people don't throw shoes out. They wear them out and then they get rid of them. They don't but whereas you get rid of clothes and stuff. And I think there are incredible organizations like Covenant House that do such a good job with, transitioning youth and homeless youth, and just so much, they really kind of help them and get them on their feet and set up bank accounts. I have so much respect for Covenant House, the work they do. So we've worked with them. And just, I think even if you give back a little bit, you don't have to give a lot, because if you don't have the time and you don't, yes, Puffy. And you don't have, he's my little rescue. He is everything, aren't you?
So cute.
It just, even if you do a little bit, just a little bit is fine, because if everybody did a little bit, an act of kindness, as we talked about,
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And I always say,
and listen, I'm not a good, but I'm sounding like Julie Andrews here, like this great person. I'm a cunt as
Mother
much
Teresa
as anybody else.
over here.
I'm happy to tell somebody,
But it's all about
like to call
balance,
somebody
right?
out, or, whatever. I'm not embracing, I'm not, trying to save people. I'm love the great people in my life, and I'm all about having some essence of philanthropy or yes, Puffy, and altruism in your life.
and like a Christian principle I grew up with that I really like is like, what you do with a little is what you'll do with a lot. So I think a lot of people sit back and say, oh, this person over here isn't, donating or giving anything. And it's like, okay, well, what are you doing with what you
I-
have,
I-
even if it's just the tiniest bit. Everyone has the capacity to do something, even the tiniest
Yeah.
bit.
And I have people saying, oh my God, you care about dogs, but you don't care about people. Okay, well, that's why I've been awarded Ally of the Year, by...
Well, they can suck it.
I can't do everything about everything. I can maybe, there's so many things that I would like to be involved.
and do something
I think
for
it's
it.
important.
There's so many things I would love to be involved with, and I'll say, "Oh, how can I help you?" or something like that. But for me, I can't create a dozen 501c3s. Even having my own 501c3 is a hell of a responsibility.
I think what you're passionate about, and when you put your time and love and energy into that, that's what's so important.
Yep.
Yeah.
Picking what you care about.
Lisa, 2 things. Number 1, thank you so much for coming on this podcast. And Broads, you have to check out, it will be in the episode notes below, Lisa's podcast. We are on it. She has some amazing guests. We had a great time. All things Vanderpump. It'll be in the episode notes. And
you guys were much more well behaved on your own podcast than on mine, by the way.
listen,
We're doing the interviewing now, so
we are here. We are trying to get our listeners to think a certain way about us, and then we went out and had some fun. No, but I have a question to wrap this. Let's just say, we'll use Becca and I as an example.
What?
Let's just say we were wanting to audition to be on Vanderpump Rules.
Stop it.
What do we do to get the attention of you as a producer?
Are you saying as if for our listeners?
Yes, for our listeners.
Well, you have to authentically work at the best way to get on Vanderpump Rules is to authentically work for me and then be up for, being part of a television show, which can be quite demanding. These guys put it all out there. So we look for people that are open emotionally and brave enough to be on it, because there's a lot of people that, who work for me that don't want to be part of it.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do what James Kennedy did and shag a cast member.
Okay. It's an
But
option,
you have to
though.
authentically work for me. And obviously
You lost me at working hard.
I know, right?
I thought we could just be dramatic.
But the show is largely based around Sir, and a lot of people there. It's a great show, and it's coming back.
So excited. Well,
Excited.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And,
thank you for having me.
Thanks.
Thank you so
and
much.
Chat soon, Broads.
Broads, we'll chat soon.
I like it the way you say broads. I say broads.
Broads. That's much more fancy. We
say
just say
brads.
broads. Listen, Broads.